Hi, and welcome back. We're back doing section 9.6. We're still solving rational equations, rational expressions, I'm sorry. And here we're going to be doing number 23 on your homework problem. Let's begin. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to factor the denominator. So let's factor the denominator, and 2x is already factored. It's as far as it'll get factored. Now what I can do is actually, if I really want, is I can put parentheses around it if it makes you feel like we're factoring it more, even though you cannot factor it any more than it already is. So I'm going to go ahead and put parentheses around there. Also number 2, I'm going to go ahead and put parentheses around it because I can't factor it anymore. So this will be 2 times x, and that'll just be 2. This one will have a denominator of 1. So my goal here is going to be to simplify or cancel out the denominator. So get rid of the denominator pretty much. So what I'm going to do first is, after it's been factored, I'm going to make an LCD list. So LCD. So I'm going to get a sample from each denominator. So here I'm going to take a 2 and an x. I'm going to take a 2 and I'm going to take an x. And then here, there's also a 2, but it looks like I've already used a 2, so I don't have to get another 2. I'm fine. And then here I'm going to get a 1. But 1 times 2x, it doesn't do anything, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave it alone. So it looks like I found my LCD. So once I found my LCD, it's time to multiply each term by the LCD. So I'm going to proceed. So I'm going to multiply by 2x. I'm going to multiply by 2x. And I'm going to multiply by 2x. I'm multiplying every term by the LCD. So there goes. Now, even though we're tempted to multiply 3 times 2x, we're not going to do it. The whole purpose of doing that is to cancel the denominator. Now, if we look at the bottom, we have a 2 and we have a 2 there. We have an x and we have an x. They're definitely going to cancel because 2 divided by 2 is 1. So 2 cancels 2 and x cancels x. You see how my denominator is gone? It works every time. Now over here, I have a 2 over a 2. So my 2 is going to cancel with the 2. And my x and my 9 will stay. Over here there is no denominator, so there's nothing to worry about. So now I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this one more time. So now we have a 3 left here with no denominator. Minus 9x equals 6 times 2 is 12. X times x is x squared. Perfect, no more denominator. It's a lot easier to solve. Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to get all of my terms over to one side. So I'm going to go ahead and get this 12x over to this side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to subtract 12x. And what I do is I put a dotted line for people who are not too used to the left and the right. This would be the left, and this would be the right. So I'll occasionally say, whatever you do to the left, you have to do to the right. So there goes. This 12x squared has to go, because opposite of positive 12x would be subtract 12x. So I'm going to be subtracting 12x squared from the right. You do it to the right, and you do it to the left. So I'm also going to be subtracting 12x squared from the left. Let me make a little bit better numbers here. Okay, perfect. So 12x minus 12x will definitely cancel out. And here's where some people don't know what to put here anymore. They say, okay, what's going on? Everything's gone. Well, correct. Everything is gone. So you can put a 0. Okay? But we're still okay. We put a 0 there, we're still fine. So now we're going to move on. I'm going to go ahead and put this side in standard form. So I'm going to go ahead and put the negative 12x first. Sorry, negative 12x squared first. Then I'm going to put the negative 9x second. And then I'm going to put the positive 3 last. Okay? Now every time before you're going to factor, the first thing you want to do is, can you factor something out of each term? Now factor would mean kind of divide. Can I divide something out of each one of these? And the answer is yes. I can factor out a 3. Correct. But I'm going to go ahead and factor out a negative 3 because I also want to get rid of that negative in the front. So there goes. I'm going to go ahead and factor out or a negative 3. But even better than factoring, I'm going to divide a negative 3 on each one of these. So I'm going to go ahead and divide this by negative 3. I'm going to divide this by negative 3. I'm going to divide that by negative 3. I'm going to divide that by negative 3. I've divided every single term by negative 3. Let's see here. My negative cancels. Okay, so it becomes a positive. It becomes a 12 divided by 3 is 4. So I end up with the 4x squared. Here, Negative divided by negative is positive. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Don't forget the x. And then there's one negative, so the answer will be negative. 3 divided by 3 is 1. And over here, don't get confused. 0 divided by a number is only going to be 0. Okay, so now we have a very small quadratic here with the 4 in the front and a negative 1 on the last term. So now I'm going to start getting factors for those, because anytime you have a quadratic equal to something, there's 3 ways to solve it. The first way would be factor and then do the zero product property, which will be factor then solve. The second way would be using the quadratic formula, and the third way would be completing the square. So we're going to go ahead and factor, and then we're going to solve. So there goes. I'm going to go ahead and make factors of 4, which will be 1 times 4 and 2 times 2. Okay? And then it goes in reverse, 4 times 1. Now I'm going to do factors of 1, which will be 1 times 1. Pretty simple. Now, I'm going to start from the beginning. So 1 times 1 is 1. 4 times 1 is 4. Can a 1 and a 4 make a 3? Well, let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and put a 1 with a 4. Can that possibly make a 3? Sure. How about if I make that a negative? What's 4 minus 1? Is 3. So that 3 is the middle term, so that's perfect. So it looks like it'll work. So I'm going to go ahead and use the first one here and the only one there. So now I'm going to go ahead and write my factors as quickly as I can. I'm trying not to hold you guys up too much. And it's always going to be equal to 0. So this guy goes in the front. This guy goes in the front. This guy goes in the back of this one. This one goes in the back of this one. And the first 2 terms are going to contain the x's. Now, if that's a negative, remember class, when that's a negative, these 2 are going to be opposite signs. So you're going to have to experiment. Do I put a negative here or do I put a negative here? Well, let's see. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take a chance, and I'm going to say, I'm going to put a negative here, I'm going to put a positive here. Now I have to test it. I'm going to get my little light blue marker here. I'm going to multiply 4x times 1 gives me 4x. Then I'm going to multiply the outer terms. Negative 1 times 1 gives me negative 1x. Sorry, negative 1 times 1x gives me negative 1x. And if I combine those, I end up with a positive 3x, which is exactly what I have in the middle there, positive 3x. So it looks like I have the right order. Everything looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. Now, if you guys want, you guys can always rewind the video a little bit to see what I did down here again. So now the zero product property says that if this factor times this factor is equal to 0, maybe that guy could be a 0, because 0 times something is 0. Or maybe this guy's 0, because 0 times something is 0. Or maybe they both can be 0, because 0 times 0 is 0. So it looks like I'm going to go ahead and pretend each one of those are 0. So I'm going to make each one of them equal to 0. So my first one here, I'm going to get rid of this 1 here, by the way. Watch what I'm doing. I don't need a 1 before the x. So there goes. I'm going to have x plus 1, and I'm going to make it equal to 0. And then I'm going to also make that one equal to 0. It'll be 4x minus 1, also equal to 0. So it looks like we have 2 little equations there. Now I'm going to get rid of that plus 1 by subtracting 1 from the left, subtracting 1 from the right. Okay? Once I do that, x is equal to negative 1. Over here on the right, I'm going to add 1, and I'm going to add 1. Okay, so now these are going to cancel, so I'm left with 4x, this comes down here, I'm left with 4x is equal to 1. And I hope you can see this on the bottom of the camera, but I'm going to be dividing both sides by 4. Okay, so I'm going to bring this up a little higher so maybe you can see. What I had down here was 4x is equal to 1. I'm sorry about that. So I divided the left by 4, divided the right by 4. These cancel. X is equal to 1/4. So it looks like I have my first answer as 1/4. My second one is negative 1. Now we're supposed to plug this into the equation to make sure that none of these are extraneous. Extraneous means that the solutions don't work. So why don't you guys, at your desk, go ahead and plug it in to see if they work or don't work. And if they don't work, then you don't use it as part of a solution. Thank you.